of our Building Trust in Times of Crisis series. My name is Talia Smith. I am the Program Manager of Initiatives of Change International's Trust Building Program. I'm excited to be facilitating today's event, which is titled Keeping Our Humanity, as this is the first webinar in our series, so please bear with us in case there are any hiccups. We're new to this. Before we get started, just a reminder that we are recording this session and it will be made available to you after the event. Please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation by using the Q&A feature that you will see on your screen. And when the time comes, we'll be sure to revisit the questions and choose some that we'd like our speaker today to answer. If you would like a question that someone else has posed and you'd like to answer it, you can use the upvote feature that you'll see next to the question. And this will help us use the next hour we have together wisely. And for those of you who are new to Initiatives of Change, an extra big welcome to you. A little bit about us before we begin. We are a worldwide movement of people of diverse cultures and backgrounds that are committed to the transformation of humans' motives and behavior, starting with oneself. And we're registered in 44 countries now around the world, working in each of these places to inspire, equip and connect change makers. One of our focus areas is trust building, and our new trust building program was launched last year and is built on over 80 years experience of trust building, peace building and reconciliation work that Initiatives of Change has been doing throughout these decades. The trust building program works to address divides, and it's based on the premise that at the heart of these larger issues is a need to build trust and reconcile personal challenges first. And this is done before any changes can occur outside of oneself. And we're currently addressing the breakdown of trust in communities in Kenya, Canada, and France. So to keep up the momentum of this trust building program and also to support our global network during this difficult COVID-19 crisis, we're offering a series of presentations by different trust builders and people in our network around the world who will share with you their stories of inspiration and also provide a guidance on how each of us can build trust in these difficult times of crisis. And so with that, allow me to invite the President of Initiatives of Change International, Mr. Suresh Vazirani, and he will say a few words and then introduce our guest speaker for today. Suresh, welcome.
Thank you, Talia. This is wonderful to have this opportunity to connect with our global network, especially at a time like this when we are all homebound. It's wonderful to imagine from where all our people are joining this seminar. Well, Talia said I should introduce Rajmohan Gandhi, though I don't really think Rajmohan needs any introduction at all. Anyway, let me do my duty. Well, Rajmohan is such a multifaceted personality. I don't know where to join, where to start. He's an amazing human being, biographer, research professor, a writer, political commentator, peacemaker. That's something that he really loves doing that. And a human rights fighter. One amazing thing about Rajmohan, which I have known personally, is his quality of natural leadership and being a mentor to many people. I was one of those fortunate to be one of those who was mentored by him for several years, the younger generation that time. And above all, I would say, in my personal experience, having known him for over 50 years, he's one of the finest human beings our generation can find. Rajmohan has been a wonderful grandson with two very tall, persons of India, Mahatma Gandhi and Rajagopalachari. Rajmohan has been a wonderful son to his parents, who are equally well known, a wonderful husband, father, grandfather, and above all, a fantastic friend to have. So welcome, Rajmohan. I'm so happy that you are able to join us and speak on a subject that is so relevant at this time of crisis. Building trust in a time of crisis and keeping humanity. We all know how uncertain this time is. Nobody knows how long this is going to last. No one knows how long this is going to be, what the future is going to be like. And as I'm one of those who believes in technology, a technological savvy, I could imagine flying to the moon, going in the space. But when it comes to say, what will the next month look like here, I'm afraid I have no answer. And all because of this tiny thing called coronavirus. So this is the time when we see the best of the humanity and also the worst of the humanity. Unfortunately, we get to see both facets of humanity. For example, today I received a call from a doctor friend who works at a hospital treating COVID patients. He said the building he lives in, his neighbors are not letting him come in, thinking that he might bring the coronavirus in him. So that's the one aspect. Other aspect is I have seen people who are risking their lives to go out and feed the poor people. At this time when almost 300 million people in India are without any earning, the people who earn every day, 300 million people don't have money because they don't have jobs. So I know many people who have gone out of the way to cook for them, to feed them. So that's the best of humanity. So this is the time when we really need to see what is our role and how we can do the best we can at this uncertain time. So I'm very glad that we have Rajmohan sharing his ideas, thoughts with us at this time. So may I invite Rajmohan? Thank you. Thank you, Tali.
Thank you, Suresh. I hope I'm being heard and seen. Thank you, Suresh, for your important opening remarks and for your kind introduction. It is such a joy for me to be together with all of you who are participating in this webinar. Many among you are close friends to my wife Usha and me. I extend to each of you and those near and dear to you greetings, best wishes, and solidarity in this challenging time. We are connected to what I never cease to marvel at, our common life with IFC, a life that celebrates the quality and variety of human beings, their racial, religious, national, and linguistic differences, and then dissolves those differences into the wonderful liquid of our common humanity. Following the pandemic, all of us are surrounded by fears and uncertainties. If we see glimmers of hope, we are conscious also of longer-term challenges and possible new waves of the pandemic. If undisturbed, quiet times are what we wished for, they have been with us in abundance. Some at this time may be reading a classic, or lingering with a poem, or with a piece of music, or a film. Above all, I know we are thinking of one another and of our world. While steering clear of people, we are also loving them more. We are realizing with fresh force that we are human beings with similar needs, fears, and longings, although we are also appreciating our dogs and cats. We certainly value our near ones more than we did. Our trust for others has grown immeasurably. Also our appreciation for the person in the grocery store, in the pharmacy, the nurse, the doctor, the one who brings groceries to our door, the postman, the driver of the garbage truck, the policeman, the firefighter, the reporter, and others whose toil adds to our lives. A few days back, I heard on TV of a surgeon of the esophagus in Tacoma in Washington State in the United States, who had returned to serve COVID patients after recovering himself from COVID-19. He was frank about the terrifying fear that frontline health workers face and then defy. We had lost sight of death. But death was always real. It was always close. The virus has cleaned our spectacles, removed the mist from our eyes. And we have learned who the real heroes are. A friend was discharged the other day from a London hospital where he had been admitted. A couple of days before his discharge, he wrote down these thoughts. I quote him: "Today is my birthday, and I thought nothing of it. Just before the end of their 12-hour shift, before going home, my nurses, Maria and Mohammed, brought chocolate cake for all of the guys on my ward and sang me happy birthday. That they would do this joyfully in the midst of coronavirus, death, bile, blood, multiple other very human afflictions, substances and materials, says something about the human spirit. If ever I doubted," he continues, "that there are angels walking amongst us, I just need to look at the NHS day staff here. I have not seen their faces fully as they're always masked in front of us." That is the end of his quotation. Now, a friend in Delhi whom I admire very much, Harsh Mandar, writes in the Indian Express, quote, "My young colleagues resolved to drive out to distribute cooked food and dry rations to the homeless. We organized masks and gloves for them, but the risk of infection always lurked. I'm frightened of corona," one of my young colleagues said, "but their hunger is greater than my fear." Their hunger is greater than my fear. In Delhi's Nizamuddin area, my friend Harsh Mandar asked a homeless man how he was surviving. The man replied that he had just a little money saved up, which he was spending on food, not just for his own family, also for 3 other families who sleep beside him on the pavement. He's not related to them, but he cannot watch their children sleep hungry. So let us not forget those who today are far from hospitals, and in many cases far also from food for their stomachs. Let us keep in mind the migrants suddenly thrown to the streets, or migrants rushing in large numbers to train or bus stations because of lockdowns to keep the rest of us safe. The virus seems to have rearranged our kaleidoscopes. We can see all of us ranged against the virus, against sickness, against hunger, against injury, rather than nation against nation, or race against race, or some kind of people against another kind of people. Will this new pattern endure? Or will we see a revival of passion for my group, my race, my religious community, my people, my country, and against others? This is surely the time to ask honest questions, bold questions. We have the incentive to ask, and we have the time to ask. Has the pandemic brought us closer to a recognition of our common equality and our common humanity? Or will the pandemic widen the wedge between peoples and nations? Will the urge to find scapegoats deliver a fresh blow to the notion of a common humanity? Haven't we often seen in country after country, someone from a disdained group risking their life to save other lives? I know we are all reaching out. perhaps as never before. We have the time to reach out and the means of reaching out. I hope we are recording memorable encounters, our deeper thoughts, our experiences from the present or the past, or even a poem or a story, a song sparked by what is happening. Let me offer a final thought. We've heard the ancient phrase, "Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." Now, evil in this phrase can mean weight, burden, but above all, perhaps today, it means anxiety. Today's anxieties are sufficient for today. We will live a day at a time, an hour at a time. Tomorrow will take care of itself. As for today, we know that each day brings its blessings, be they ever so small. I also like a line my grandfather Gandhi often reminded himself of. That line goes like this: I do not ask to see the distant scene, one step enough for me. Hasn't life confirmed to all of us that no matter what, there is always the next step? Let me end by repeating my gratitude to God for all that each of you are and do.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rajmohan. I think now if we can just take a few moments of quiet just to reflect on Rajmohan's words and let them sink into your hearts and minds. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rajmohan, for that encouraging and hopeful talk. So we'll open, the floor now is open for questions. So as I mentioned before, that you can ask Rajmohan a question by typing it into the Q&A feature that you will see on your screen. So some people, oh, we have quite a few questions now. Let's try and find the speaker so they can voice their question. If it doesn't work, then I'll read it out. So if we can go to Bharat, who asked Rajmohan a question just after we started at 2 o'clock. And our host, I wonder if we can find Bharat. Is it possible? Yeah, we'll just, okay.
Bharat can now speak and say out loud what was his question.
Fantastic. Bharat, welcome. If you can ask Rajmohan your question, please. Okay, we'll come back to Bharat. If we can go with Udesh Fernando next. You asked Rajmohan a question again just while he was talking. So is that Bharat?
I've spoken, yeah?
Hello, Bharat. Welcome. The floor is open for you to ask your question to Rajmohan, please.
Rajmohan, I have two questions. My first question is, the world has been closed for renovation. It's going to be opening soon. What advice would you have for the new man and woman in the brave new world that's going to be opening up? And my second question would be, which politicians have actually demonstrated their power in building trust? Thank you. The Bharat Ablani from Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you, Bharat. I was not able to see you, but I was certainly able to hear you. Thank you for your question. I'll take your second question first. Which politician can we rely upon? I think the answer is we should rely on each other. We should rely on our friends. We should rely on our own inner strength. We should certainly hope that politicians will play their part, but we have to find a way of dealing with this with good politicians if we find them, and without them if that becomes necessary. As to what advice I would give to all of us as we enter a new phase, Bharat, I am too old and experienced to offer advice at this stage. Who can offer human wisdom at this stage? We need above all to see what is our role in the immediate crisis with those who are next to us, our own near ones. Also, what is it that we can do to assist those who are in great need? How can we help them if we are in a position to help them in any way? Let us not at this stage hope or expect that we will find some magical ways of ushering in a wonderful, wonderful new tomorrow. I think if we take care of each day as faithfully, as calmly as we can, that will be a wonderful contribution.
Thank you. Thank you, Bharat, for asking your question from Colombo. So next, if we can invite Udesh Fernando, please. If you can introduce yourself and where you're from and ask Rajmohan your question.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for arranging this session. First of all, I am Udesh Fernando. I work for the Sarodesh Ramadana movement in Sri Lanka. My question to you, Rajmohan, is what special message do you have for, especially for the young people, you know, the next generation who would be heavily impacted by the crisis more than the virus, the crisis ahead, the economic crisis, and, you know, the increase of poverty and all that. And how can we inspire young people? How do we motivate them to face these challenges and at the same time make them think that they should help their neighbor or in general help humanity while we awake to the new world which we talk about? So that's my question. Thank you very much.
Well, I think, Udesh, your question itself is a very inspiring one. I appreciate that. The very fact that you want yourself and other young people around the world to play the role they can play today is so heartening. It seems to me that at this moment we have so many wonderful examples, as Suresh Vasirani also pointed out in his opening remarks. There's so many people who are reaching out, often at great risk, to assist. This moment is bringing out, in many ways, the noblest and the finest in many human beings, although, as Suresh also pointed out, it also brings out something which is not so nice, something that's often pretty mean in us. But if we can continue to pass on to whoever we can reach these amazing stories of inspiration, and if we can keep our own faith in a good tomorrow alive, that tomorrow will one day come. I hope it'll come soon. But keep the faith, keep sharing the good news, be grateful for each day's wonderful mercies, whether they're small mercies or large mercies, and appreciate the so many inspiring, heroic stories we hear day by day, and to pass on those stories. I think that for the moment is enough. And we must make, of course, an inner resolve, each of us, that insofar as it is within our power, we will ensure that after this pandemic, the world will be more united than before, less divisive than before, and we will not allow clashes between group and group, nation and nation, that we will really work towards a common and an equal humanity.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. You can see the common thread coming through in that of the common humanity. So next, I would like to invite Angela Salmon to the floor to ask Rajmohan a question. And if you can introduce yourself and where you're calling from, Angela.
Hi, I am from Ecuador, but I live in Miami, and I work in education. And empathy is one of the biggest things that I've been working for a while. My question is, in all your presentation, you are talking about this unity and people being touched by all this pandemia, and the empathy that we see in videos and people trying to help each other. I'm worried that once that we get back to the busy life and to the consumerism and the competition, we forget all of this. So how can we conserve this empathy and this community and this sense of community and work and support to each other?
Thank you, Angela, for a very good question. But I have great faith that you and people like you will not allow people to return to the old ways. You will prod them, you will needle them, you will remind them. You will not allow this very difficult experience to be a waste. You will use this amazing experience to remind people in the future that caring for one another, trusting one another, respecting one another is the way to go. And a selfish life for one's own money-making or ambition is just absolutely irrelevant for our times. I know that people will become complacent. Yes, of course, people will also want to mingle with each other and enjoy being with each other after a long period of isolation. But I count on people like you, and there are millions like you in the world, who will not allow complacency to become normal and selfishness to become normal again, as long as it is in your power to keep fighting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, our next question, please. Mohammed Rantisi. Welcome to the floor. If you can introduce yourself and ask Rajmohan a question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tracy. This is Mohammed Rantisi from Palestine, Gaza. Thank you very much for this session. My question is, as IFC team, what opportunities and the challenges do you foresee in the light of the current coronavirus crisis? Thank you.
Well, Mohammed, thank you for a very important question. And yes, there are both challenges as I mentioned, there is a strong temptation, and many people are yielding to that temptation, to find scapegoats when there is a serious problem like the pandemic has given to all of us. Many people want to find some group to blame, some group, some outside group, some group not our own. But they are more responsible than anybody else for worsening the crisis. So that is one response that we have noticed also. Although we've also noticed amazing caring, irrespective of who people are. So we must make sure that after this pandemic, this habit that the world has seen now for quite some time, of blaming other groups, that they are responsible, that we will not allow that, that we will strengthen our solidarity with people of all kinds. We will point out what is wrong. We will fight for what is right. We will fight for human rights, but we will also never, never hold a particular group, whether it's a racial group, a religious group, a national group. We will not blame one particular group of humanity for the ills of humanity. And we will work for justice, for friendship, for partnership. And so people like you in Gaza, in Palestine, and many others around the world will, I expect and I believe, will work for such an outcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you.
An important message there, to work together in partnership and friendship to tackle these injustices, even after, of course, the COVID-19. So our next question will come from Joyce Sedeno. Welcome, Joyce.
Hello, good evening. My name is Joyce. I'm from the Philippines. And before I ask my question, I want to say thank you for that very enlightening discussion so far. It's something that I think we all needed to remember. And my question now is, nowadays people are being pressured to stay productive, work, and learn new habits in this time of crisis. It's hard to always be productive knowing the situation out there. And so there's always that anxiety, that worry about what's happening outside. And so my question is, what's the best way to cope with this, and how can we continue to help and empathize with people despite this struggle?
Thank you, Joyce. I didn't quite catch where you were from. Where from the Philippines?
Oh, yes, I'm from the Philippines.
Which town in the Philippines are you in?
I'm from Manila, and here it's the lockdown, the community lockdown.
Okay. So you want to be more creative, more productive. So where you are, have you got some people close to you? Or are you in close touch with some? Are you able to maintain contact with some?
Here, it's hard to leave the house because the government has very strict policies.
Yeah, sure.
And so I can't go out of the house, although I work from home. But there's always that worry that even if I stay productive, like behind me, I'm still, like trying to cope up with what's happening in the world. And so I find that struggle. And so I wanted to ask what's the best way to cope with this struggle?
Are you able to have, through the internet or the telephone, some contact with friends who understand your situation, and you understand? I'm sure you have some like that. Are you able to make some contact, or is that also very difficult even on telephone or the internet?
I try to keep in touch with friends and with family who aren't with me. But the struggle is really just staying productive and staying active in this kind of situation.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for being so open, Joyce. But I'm hoping that some of your friends, or even some who are listening to this conversation and who may be not far from where you are, may be in a position to keep in touch with you and encourage you, and through mutual support and solidarity, we will overcome these hurdles. I respect your openness, and I have a sense that you will find some good. And also remember, Joyce, that there are so many others who in a similar situation like you, and I'm sure you're already thinking of people who maybe having similar challenges as you. And as you reach out to support them and encourage them, you will also find support for yourself. But you can be sure that as a result of what you have shared just now, several people will be rooting for you, Joyce.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for your honesty. We are rooting for you. And Fabiana and Isma, welcome.
Hello, Talia. Hello, Rajmohan and all. I was trying to understand what is really happening now and how we are in the middle of a tension of two paradigms. And from the IFC point of view, I would like to know what are the tools we could practice in our daily life and also help others to solve this tension about two paradigms, as I said. One, it's the paradigm of the fantasy, or the sense of we have everything under control. You know, our world pretend to teach us that we have the future in our control. We control everything. We own a house. We have a degree. We do, and we have both that paradigm. And now the new paradigm that brings a lot of tension is the uncertainty. It's a daily life based on uncertainties. I mean, even the biggest countries in the world, the most powerful economically speaking, they don't know what is going to happen. So how do we within IFC could learn to deal and set a new paradigm?
Thank you. Now, where are you speaking from? Where are you?
Well, sorry, I am from Honduras, Uruguay, but I'm speaking from Brazil.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you for your important question and how right you are when you say that on the one hand, many people try to give the impression that all is under control, that things are being managed, things will be terrific. And at the same time, there is very great uncertainty. So, and then there is all of us connected with IFC who believe that individuals can make a difference, that we can change ourselves, we can strengthen one another, we can continue our solidarity and enhance our solidarity. So I think that maybe one important thing to recognize is that those who pretend that everything is under control are certainly not speaking the truth. Everything is not under control, even in so-called normal times, even in non-pandemic times. Things are not really under control. They depend on mutual cooperation, on different sections of society or a country working in some kind of harmony with one another. And we know that that does not happen. But we also know, as has been expressed already in this hour, that so many people are doing not only helpful things, but heroic things. That human nature is capable of great bravery in aid of others in need. and of great service in aid of others in need. And that the people who are willing to be of this kind of helpfulness are not a small minority, they are an immense majority in the world. Yes, in so-called normal times, we may tend to relax, we may lose our heroic nature, but we have seen enough evidence in this time that there is so much goodness, nobility, and greatness in human beings across all barriers and all divides. And so that should enhance our confidence when, God willing, things do improve and we're able to go out and work and earn. We may find that our experience of this will give us more confidence in making sure that the right thing happens, in making sure also that we are able to understand and see through those who pretend that everything is under control, those who say that they can work magic and create a wonderful, wonderful nation under their leadership. Sometimes they say that the future of the world does not depend on leaders who claim that things are under control. The future of the world depends on the solidarity and cooperation between ordinary people like you and I.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Isma. Thank you for that response, Rajmohan. And next, Veronique Sikora, welcome.
Hi, everyone. This is Veronique, and I'm calling from Switzerland. I want to go back to my questions, sorry. Rajmohan, I was wondering how we might go about gathering the collective wisdom, the collective intelligence in our world to build trust and to recover or continue recovering in a sustainable way.
How to collect our collective wisdom.
Yeah, our collective intelligence, our collective wisdom.
Yes. So I don't know whether I have a ready-made suggestion to do what you want done, but I think you make a very important point that each of us through this experience has obtained some insights about ourselves or about our world. And that if we share these insights, I think this may be a wonderful thing that for us all to consider, that different ones of us offer truths I have learned or lessons I have learned, and we share them. So maybe one of the webinars to come could include contributions under this heading, what have I learned in the last 4 weeks for the future, which can be helpful. So I think you make a very important point that in this time of both challenge and solitude, many of us have had lots of insights and thoughts. Let us collect them to enrich all of us and help the future. Thank you, Veronique, for your suggestion.
Thank you very much, Rajmohan, and thank you very much for this talk.
So we seem to have a pause.
Yes.
Apologies for this pause. Talia has disappeared. She probably is having a problem with connection. But the next question was from Mike Mukia from Kenya. Mike?
Yes, hello. My question is, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you, Mike. Wonderful.
All right, that's great. My question is, I know we are experiencing this one for the first time, majority of us. And my question was, are there similarities between now and the pre-colonial times when people are anxious of the independence and they didn't know when the freedom would come, when they would feel like a new country. Are there similarities between now and then, and when leaders had to make very critical decisions? And what must we not forget, or what must we not ignore at this time?
Well, that's a great question, Mike. And it's wonderful to see you again.
Thank you.
Though virtually. But you ask a very relevant question. And I know that I've been sharing with some people close to me, and we have also reflected on this fact that this solitude that many of us are now obliged to maintain has some similarities with the solitary imprisonment that many people who fought for freedom also had. You know, we are in, you might say, jails of a very different kind, but we are confined. And many people who fought for great causes, for freedom, for equality, for other great aims in the world, for women's rights, often were imprisoned. For civil rights, racial equality in the United States, were also imprisoned. So there are similarities. So millions and millions of us now can live into the experience of those who fought for great causes in the past, who sacrificed for them, who paid a price for them, and who turned also in many cases their imprisonment into opportunities where they wrote important things. Some of the great books that have come down in history to all of us were written in prisons. So I have no doubt that this period of isolation for millions of people will result eventually in some wonderful literature for humanity. So there are those similarities. But I think the great thing is, as again has been mentioned before, that there is a choice before us. Just as in those days, people could use the imprisonment to enhance their anger or bitterness, or they could use it for creativity, for positive plans for the future, for building a new nation after freedom or after release from imprisonment. So similarly, we can use our solitude to see how we can, when the time comes for interaction and communal living, how communal living and interaction can be far more creative, far more enjoyable, far more constructive, far more helpful to our countries and to the world. Thank you for a very good comparison between the old days and today, and for the potential for the future in your question.
Well answered, thank you.
Tali, unfortunately, is having an issue with the microphone.
Okay. But Elena, you are...
It's okay.
Oh, here's Talia again. Good.
Okay, sorry about that. I think we have Wadia next to ask a question. Welcome, Wadia.
Just a moment, please. We will find Wadia.
And then I think we'll have time for one more question before we wrap up.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Wadia.
Hello, Wadia.
I have a question about the role of the new generation of IOC. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a dear friend from Australia, and he mentioned a sentence, "We are a dying network," and that triggered me into much reflection. So I thought, what stops us from networking as it used to happen before, and even better? We now have better communication means, the technology, etc. But I was also thinking how we lack time and we lack the depth that used to be in the old days. Long ago, we used to go for like 3 days of traveling in order to meet substantially with people for like 3 very rich days of conversation and then build projects. Nowadays, we speak to each other very shallowly and very fast in order to come back to our work. So what can we do to face the challenges after COVID, as we know that polarization and mutual accusations will take place? How can we strengthen our spiritual depth and rebuild our networking stronger than before?
Thank you, Wadia. And I'm very glad that you're asking an 84-year-old person what young people should do in the future. That's very appropriate. I appreciate that. But seriously speaking, you ask a crucial question, but I would say it is an incomplete question. In many ways, yes. If we think of IFC as some kind of association or fellowship in the world, and we think of it in terms of numbers and its common activities, we may conclude that we are not as active maybe as we were once upon a time. That would be a fair statement. But then what exactly is IFC? As far as I'm concerned, I've always thought of IFC as something that involves each of us directly with our nations, with our societies, with the world. And is maintaining our fellowship and enhancing its numbers our aim? In some ways it may be, but our real aim is to see what the needs of our nations are and to see how we, in association with everybody, those associated with the IFC, those who have no connection with the IFC, but those who are members of our nation, of our society, how do we interact with them? How do we connect with them to meet the needs of today? To me, that is the question we should ask, along with the question of how to strengthen the IFC network. Thank you, Wadia.
Thank you, Wadia. Thank you, Rajmohan. And we have Archana Dubey next. Welcome, Archana.
Hello.
Hello.
Namaste. I'm Archana Dubey from New Delhi. So, Uncle, I'm working as a happiness volunteer, and we heard many daily wages workers who have got stuck somewhere. So sometimes people call us, and they started crying, and they shared their problems and issues. How come we? What should we say, or what should we focus on to help them to overcome them, like emotional?
Thank you, Archana. And for those who may not be aware, Archana, she refers to this happiness team. And there are many people like Archana in different parts of India who are trying to help those in need. They're doing amazing work. So first of all, let me salute you and your colleagues for the work you're doing. But when people ask questions, those who are suffering and they ask us questions, it's not so easy to tell them how they can get out of their suffering, because it's sometimes beyond us to help them beyond a certain point. But as long as they find a really listening person who listens to their sadness, to their sorrows, to their difficulties, that will go a long way. They don't expect perfect solutions from you, but they want a listening ear, a sympathetic heart, an empathetic heart. And I know you are providing it. And the very fact that you want to know how to be more helpful to those who ask these questions shows that you are trying to be a true friend to people. So as long as you try to be a true friend to those who are in need, you will do what's needed. Thank you, Archana.
Thank you so much, Uncle.
We have Hamza as well.
Welcome, Hamza.
Hello.
Hamza.
Yes, hello.
Yes, hello, Hamza. Where are you from?
How are you, uncle? I am from Lebanon, but I am in breakdown in France.
In France, okay.
Yeah. So thank you for opening the space. And like my question was, this COVID-19 showed us that despite all the power, science, technology, alone with an individualistic mind, life will not be able to handle our greeds. How do you think can we create a new leadership model based on connectivity, respect, and community service, rather than focusing mostly on profits and competition? As actually, even with that situation, we still find that competition on economic, politics, and even country wars. Thank you.
Well, thank you for a very important but a difficult question. I wish I had a simple answer to it. But I think as long as that is our goal, that we want to reduce the extreme individualism in the world, we want the human personality to flower, but we certainly want mutual respect, cooperation, realization that we need one another. And you are from Lebanon, you are in France, you're speaking in English to a very large network around the world. And I think you will find among them people who will think with you and prepare, also think of what might be opportunities to do once there is some opening up. So while I don't have certainly ready-made answers, I again rejoice in the fact that you are searching for ways of cooperation and solidarity beyond this period, and ways of helping humanity to learn in the future that really the salvation lies in our listening to one another, getting to respect one another, working together. So your question is to me a very great encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hamza. Thank you. And for our final question, John Bond, welcome.
Thank you very much, Rajmohan. We here in Britain, our news is totally focused on coronavirus and how it's affecting us. And of course, it's very painful. But it is excluding us from realizing that there are countries which are in a far worse state to deal with coronavirus than us. The countries of Africa, the countries that are the poorest in the world. Can we do something? How can we do it to open our hearts, our concerns also to those countries, such that the resources and all that is needed can flow to those countries, so that when it hits them, they can meet, they have the resources to meet the challenge which they will face.
So thank you, John, for reminding all who are taking part in this webinar that there are needs in other parts of the world that we are sometimes not sufficiently aware of. We all feel very deeply for what is happening in our own countries or where we are. Fortunately, today there was at least one person from Africa who took part. And maybe in the coming days and weeks, that if we have other webinars, that they could be more from different parts of Africa who might be invited ahead of time to contribute and share the situation in their countries, so that all of us are more intimately aware of what is happening in countries far from our own. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. And thank you everyone for your questions today. I'm sorry that we couldn't get round to everyone in our short hour, but I think you'll all agree that it was a very rich time with Rajmohan. And it's these kind of conversations that we really need at the moment, humanity, for some hope and give us some brightness. So thank you, Rajmohan. And I think you gave us the importance of keeping our humanity during these difficult moments of COVID-19. I think humans have the capacity to get through suffering and dreadful situations, provided that we have a purpose and something to live for and something which gives us meaning, as you alluded to. And I think you quoted someone else's quote that tomorrow will take care of itself. So that's a nice closing quote. Thank you. So in closing, to our audience and friends that have joined us today, you were asked when you were registered to please contribute what you can to this event. Initiatives of Change relies on donations to do our work, and every gift, no matter the size of it, makes a big difference. And talking about trust, connecting with each other, thinking about who we can be in the future, all of these are essential components to the work of Initiatives of Change. And I hope that you will feel moved to go to our website after this event to make a donation. Thank you. And after the event now, you will receive an email to give us an opportunity of feedback and how we can improve our series of webinars. And then I hope you can join us for our next speaker, who will be the change maker and trust builder, Jessie Sutherland, who will be speaking with us on the 30th of April. So I wish to thank you all. A big thank you to Rajmohan. Thank you, Suresh, for giving us your words today. We're grateful for everyone's participation. And as I mentioned, it's what humanity needs right now. Thank you, everyone. Take care and keep in touch. Thank you.